So I turned the game back up on the microphone, the physical microphone, not Camtasia, because I have to get the microphone out of the view of the screen. As a matter of fact, let me kind of push this back a little bit. All right. So I have good days and bad days. Today's kind of like a okay day. So I'm gonna be a little winded as far as breath is concerned. Okay, so let's do a recap real quick or the order of operations as far as our boot process. Okay, doing your post. Okay, all right. What the operating system does is it locates the ROM. Okay, test the hardware as far as the interfaces, the memory, things of that nature. Okay, everything that it wants operational and functioning, and having kind of like a check mark or a pass. Uh, saying hey, you passed or you failed. Scenario before something comes up onto the screen. Okay, so if your ROM is messed up, okay, you're not going to pass post. You're not going to get anything on the screen, and you're going to be most likely replacing your device. Okay. Now, after the post is set up, okay, and we go through that process, we located the ROM and all our hardware is tested. Okay, we're going to finally get into the read only aspect of this process. Okay. Now Cisco calls it a bootstrap. You can do any. You can go deep as you want as far as what the bootstrap is and how it works. Okay, on Cisco Docs, we're not going to cover it that much. Just understands that the bootstrap is necessary. Okay, and what it is used to search the flash. Okay, for a valid iOS. Okay, because that's really what the ROM is there. And think of read it only memory like a video cartridge. Okay, Nintendo or Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis. Okay, what you had on those cartridges was circuitry. Okay, but you also had read only memory, ROM. Okay, now when you turned on your Nintendo set or your Genesis or whatever and had your cartridges in there, the read-only aspect of that, okay, would bring the game into memory. All right. Now, of course, it goes through this little post thing as well. But once Sega, flashes up on the screen, okay, your post is done, and now what we're doing is reading the ROM that's actually on the cartridge. Okay, and we're loading that into RAM. All right, so the game can play. Now, based on how the game is set up and coded, every time you save a game, okay, all right, it's going to save where your location is, how much gold you have, how much experience you have, what level you're at, so on, so on, so on. That is saved, okay, but that's not saved in ROM, okay. All right, read-only memory is read-only. Okay, we're not doing any saving. All right. Now, if the image cannot be found, if ROM cannot find the image or the iOS in Flash, okay, because that's his job, right? If it can't do that, now keep in mind, ROM is just something that is just code, okay? All right. Maybe you'll say, I don't know, look for iOS. I don't know. I don't know the language of the code. Okay, but whatever language you would use, okay, that's what the read-only memory is doing. Without that, nothing happens. Okay, all right, just like your game, your ROM on your game, like Zelda, nothing happens. There's nothing to load if it's not there. Okay, so this ROM is important to actually get things started, to tell the hard or tell the operating system what to do, or I should say that ROM is like its little mini operating system having instructions and code to get the boot process started. Okay. Now, if we cannot find, okay, an image, what we're going to do is we're not going to just kill the device and keep it as a brick, right, or paperweight. We're going to go into another mini OS, which is called ramen. Okay, and in this mode, this gives you the ability to do some troubleshooting. Really, not much. I mean, mainly what you want to do in this mode, seriously, is set a subnet mask, set a IP address, and say, hey, this is the FTP server. Okay, now FTP server is just like TFTP. Okay, what was it? Trivial file transfers. Don't give me a protocol. Don't get me started. Okay, you know, and this is the funny thing is, 15 years ago, I could have told you that on the top of my head. All right, and always remember all the information that I'm giving you. Okay, you have to revisit it many times. Okay, and it's going to get to the point where you are going to get to the point as you're doing this for years. You can get to the point where you have forgotten more stuff that you learned. Okay, and that just and you're sitting there talking to somebody and you can't remember what an acronym means. What does VTP stand for? Isn't that like VLAN Trucking Protocol? Okay, or like what I do all the time. Okay, I can't remember the acronym, but TCP. Okay, I always want to say telecommunication control protocol, and I don't know why, but somehow along the way, right? Okay, telecommunications, right, is just something that's stuck in my head as part of the acronym, and it's way the hell off, right? It's transmission control protocol, right? But I always, man, guys, I would even do it today. It's just, man, it's weird how your brain works because you're on point, and then all of a sudden you pick up this like weird habit where you're like, where did that come from? And you can't get rid of it. But knowing what your faults are and what your weaknesses are, okay, gets you to a level of self-awareness which allows you to recognize, that you're doing these things, and it just becomes a part of your DNA. Oh yeah, I always do that. No big deal. And it has no variance, okay, on your skill set because you're confident on what you know, what you don't know. All right, and at that point, we don't know what we don't know, but at the same time, okay, I've been doing this since 2009. I've been in IT since 1994. Okay, and even when I'm 90 years old, I'm still gonna be making dumbass mistakes. Okay, it's just the way it is. All right, so now, okay, once the ROM has located, the iOS on flash, this whatever's on the flash, this iOS image, which is the actual operating system. Now, what is an image? Well, have you ever taken a DVD movie or a DVD game and copied it? Okay. Have you ever cloned a hard drive? Okay. Whenever you do that, what file you create doing that process of copying is called the image. Okay, so the image, all right, are .bin files, BIN files, all right, that you would download from Cisco, and this will be the operating system for that device. Okay, and once ROM finds that, what it does is it decompresses it. Okay, that means it's not in readable format as a bin file. It has been compressed as if you are zipping a file or tarring a file. Okay, so we're going to decompress it, and we're going to load that image, that data into RAM. And now, guys, Now the booting really begins. Okay? Now your hardware is alive. It has an engine. It has a heartbeat. Okay? Now, at that point, part of the booting process, okay, is going into NVRAM, all right, and loading the startup config, first finding it, and loading the startup config from NVRAM and putting it into RAM. Okay, now the startup file, okay, is only there as a file. Taking that file and loading it into RAM has now become the running config. So your startup config becomes a running config. Now, from that aspect, your startup config only changes is when you save whatever's in the running config to the startup config. Or, okay, you go in and you delete that startup config out of Flash, okay, and go back in there, okay, and load a different startup config, okay. Pretty cool, huh? All right. So yes, I can actually save my startup configs, okay, or my running configs to a startup config on Flash if I wanted to, okay, and I can manipulate that startup config, but only in the sense of, okay, you know what? I don't even know if you can do that. I've never done that before. Taking it out and edited it with a notepad editor. I've never done that before, so I don't even know if that's possible. That's gonna have to be a lab one day. Okay. All right. You can actually do a show start command, or I'm sorry, show startup config command. Okay, and see what's in startup. Okay. Now this is helpful because you can actually go back and re-verify that your saves are working. Let's say you go through and you and the command for that is copy run config space startup config. All right. So what you're saying is whatever's in the running config, we're gonna copy it to the startup config. All right. And now whatever the running config is, now is going to be the startup config. When we reboot or power cycle, whatever's the startup config becomes the running config. All right. Now. I lost my train of thought. Damn it. Yeah, I mean, I literally lost my train of thought. My bad. I'm sorry. So your startup config. Okay. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. All right. So, let's say you save. You're running config to your startup config. Your reboot or power cycles, or you power cycle right then and there, 10 years later, who knows? Okay, and it does not save it. Okay, so now you're getting tired of this happening with this particular device. So what you are going to start doing now is you're going to start saving the configs, okay, and then you're going to take the running config and copy it and put it in Notepad, okay, or in Excel. You're going to take the running config and paste that in the next column, okay, side by side, all right, and do what's called a diff, D-I-F-F, okay, and that is going to compare column A to column B and highlight what is different in each row, okay. Now you can do this manually, but who the hell wants to go through, 500, 600, 2,000 lines of code, right? Okay, all right. Having a diff program is a lot easier. Now, if you use Notepad++ or Note++, it has that feature in there automatically, where Notepad does not. And there is a script for Excel to use that diff as well in the spreadsheet. Okay, now, so that will make sure that you're having, you're saving your configs every time if that particular scenario happened, or you just wanted to test it just because you want to test it. Either or. Okay. Now, Whew. Now, let's say you lose your starter config, okay? And it's not there. What's going to happen when that is not there? Your device automatically is going to go back to the default, which is called setup mode, okay? And we're going to see all this. And that is what happens when you get a device fresh out of box. You boot into setup mode, okay? All right, so you go back. All right, luckily you were smart enough to save the configs before you started messing with the device, okay? And you load, after you go through setup mode, you load the configs back on there and you're back on track, okay? All right, there is no way for you to be locked out of a device, okay, from the scenario of you being the one managing that device. There's always a way around things, okay? All right, now, okay, so now, after all that being said, you now have your starter config in RAM, and now your device has come to a prompt for you to log in, and now you have successfully booted. And that is your boot process, okay? Any one of those processes that are broken or messed up, okay, you're going to find out, okay? All right, so that's it for this particular video. I'll see you guys on the next one.